Hello and good evening. It is Saturday night, and this is episode 18 of season 1 of the Composite, and this will be our last episode of the season. My impulse is to leave it like this. Okay. All right. It looks like my connection was unstable for a little bit. My apologies. My impulse is to leave the phone like unflattering angle here. And like I said, my connection seems a little unstable. Okay, that's a slightly better. Okay. So, thank you for anyone that might join us, or if anybody watches the playback, just a quick plug. So any episodes of season 1 of the Composite are available via this Instagram account, the Composite with Deanne Battle, and then also, in the archives there in the reels and stuff. But also, I've got a YouTube channel where I post all of the videos separately after they air. So definitely like, share, and subscribe on YouTube if you're not an Instagram person. All right, and you will have a couple of weeks to get caught up, because we are going to take a couple of weeks hiatus. When I first started doing this show in May, I was just kind of like, I don't know what's going to happen with it. But now it's a habit and it's fun. And I'm 18 episodes in, and so I thought that this was a good time to take a little hiatus, a little break, for a couple of reasons. One, because we're at the end of summer, and Labor Day is coming up, and then two, that would give me some time to experiment and do different things in terms of how I'm streaming, my settings and background sound, lighting, all of that stuff. It would give me a couple of weeks to get all of that in order. And so, for season 2, I would say anyone that's checked me out a couple of times, expect something a little more sophisticated, right? So that's how it's supposed to go. You learn and grow as you do things, creative/media endeavor. Apologies if you're hearing cars in the background here. I face the parking lot, so hopefully it's not too loud. But we'll be back the first week of September. Now, I don't have an exact date. My impulse would be to do September 1st, but it is Labor Day weekend, and there's a holiday that Monday. So I don't know. I'll take the temperature. I might wait until Tuesday, September 5th. But like I said, my impulse would be to just come back on September 1st and have more of a set schedule. But last nuts and bolts here, I've put out a call, 2 separate calls that I'll post and repost in the next couple of weeks. But it's just the same stuff that I've been talking about if you've been joining me, if you've been listening to me. One, any writers, if you write fiction, novels, short stories, flash fiction even, if you write creative nonfiction, if you're a memoirist, if you are a personal essayist, and then if you're a poet, I've got a shiny new MFA last year, and I'm just fresh off of a writing conference in Vermont, which was why I was traveling. Oh yay, we've got somebody in the chat here. Hi there. I've got a lot of creative writing experience. I've got the academic writing experience. I've worked from every grade from 7th grade through college. I'm returning back to higher ed. And so I know how to, go through people's work, their creative work. I know the sensitivity around that. And then your academic writing, I know how to, help with that as well. And so my, studio writing skills, plus my work as an educator, plus the fact that I've been writing for over 30 years, why not take advantage of that, right? So I will do consultations with folks, only if people are interested. But that's my wheelhouse. So I think, the, what do you call it? The dialogue or the rapport might flow a little easier, looking at people's writing. And then also, I don't think we talk about writing enough. Even if you're not a writer, even if you hate writing, everyone has to write something, right? At the very basic level, you're writing emails, you're writing proposals for work, you're doing research. We all have to persuade people or gauge people's interest with our writing. So I thought, using this show, a few episodes out of season 2 to demonstrate some of those skills that I have would be helpful. So yes, DM me. Let's be in touch. Let's talk about your writing. So that's over here on the left. And then on the right, I would love to do some artist interviews. That would be, oh yes, yeah, people are writing wedding vows. Yeah, could you imagine? Like, you should workshop your wedding vows, right? You don't want the first time, that you're bearing your soul, right, to your potential, spouse and the world. Like, it's just like, oh, I wrote these vows. They're very heartfelt, but they don't sound good. So, hey, you never know. Reach out. And then, like I said, on the right side here, I want to be able to do artist interviews. And so those will be 15 to 20 minute interviews with people in any medium, really. My medium is the literary arts, but, from high school and in college and, different facets of my life. I play the guitar a little bit. I took dance classes. I dance a little bit. I sing a little bit at home. I rap a little bit at home. So I have like a bunch of varied interests. And so, again, I don't want to present myself as a master of all these different trades. But again, I've got, I'm intelligent. I have a critical eye. So, it would be just wonderful to chat with an artist, emerging or otherwise, about their process, about how they stay focused, about how they earn money as they're making new work, right? Because that's definitely something that I've been grappling with, for a majority of my adult life, if we're being honest. How do you make money doing these things, right? And so welcome to season 1, episode 18. So I've made it this far, so congratulations to me. And again, thanks to everybody that's joined me in any shape or form, whether it's live in the chats or whether it's the replay on Reels on Instagram, or whether it's on the YouTube channel. So I'm looking forward to season 2 and what else we have on the docket there. I'm not 100% sure how long I'm going to stay on. That's something else that'll be standardized for season 2. Initially I was like, each episode should be 40 to 45 minutes. But I had certain episodes that were an hour and then Instagram cuts you off. Or episodes that were like 30, 35 minutes, which, 35 versus 45, not a huge difference. But yeah, I want to be more of a known entity as I try to grow this platform. And so that's a lot of what I'm thinking about. I think for the uninitiated, which I would include myself in that, when you're consuming social media, certain influencers or pundits or whoever that you follow, you don't necessarily think about, how the sausage is made, the work that goes into it. And, it is a lot of work. I think if you're performing at a high level, I'm very, not junior varsity, but like thirds right now. But, I'm working up to JV, so we'll get there. Other things. Oh, okay. So let me show you something. Okay. So I start my new position next week. And I was talking to a friend of mine, and she said, okay, well, CVS, they're doing free COVID vaccines this weekend. So, you might want to get up on that. And I had to think about it because, this school that I'm going to, again, I'll be working with adults, from all over New York City. And there'll be, a lot of people on campus and stuff like that. And so I was like, okay, well, I'll just sign up and, go and get a COVID shot. So I signed up last night, went in today, and when I handed my card over for her to update it before she did the shot, she said, well, you already got the bivalent booster, and the new shot is not ready yet until September, toward the end of next month. And she was like, so you're not going to be able to get a COVID shot today. I did get a flu shot, though, because for those that know me, I got the flu in February, and I was sick for like 3.5 weeks. Like, I was super sick. I actually thought I did have COVID, and maybe they weren't telling me, but it was just a really, really awful case of the flu. Like, I haven't been sick like that, I think, in probably close to 10 years. So I was very, very ill, had trouble getting out of bed, couldn't go to work. Like, I was just incapacitated. And then, losing fluids and stuff like that. And so I'm a person where I wasn't really getting the flu vaccine on a regular basis because I would get like headaches and stuff like that right after the vaccine. And then people would be like, oh, that's, psychosomatic. You're not like, it doesn't actually do anything to you. And then, I had a doctor admit like, no, sometimes people do have a little bit of a reaction. So it's just weird to me how people will tell you what's happening with your own body when you're like, no, I actually am experiencing some sort of, not full-blown illness, but, feeling like run down, lethargic. And so for many years, I didn't get the flu vaccine. But after I had the flu in February, I just am like, yeah, just, open the vein up, because that was terrible. So I got the flu vaccine, but like I said, I have to wait on the COVID, the updated COVID vaccine. It looks like there's another variant here coming, another variant growing. So that's something that we'll have to deal with. I've been pretty consistent in terms of masking and stuff like that, but I did, kind of pause it over the summer. It just got to be a bit of an albatross, while I was teaching. And, my students over the summer were in 7th and 8th grade, and it was just kind of like they couldn't hear me, it just was. So I was just like, okay, well, I guess I've gone this long without it. And then, I took my mask off, but I've never been fully comfortable. So now that, I'll be in a more dense, getting notifications. Now that I'll be in a more dense population, and, I think, there'll be more exposure. Like I said, people will be coming from, all over different parts of the city, the tri-state area. I said, okay, well, this is a nice opportunity for me in this new environment to reset, because there's always just so much. I just feel like, the whole mask situation, it when you have it on, you're hyper visible. Like let's say, for instance, like there was a time when I wasn't wearing it, but then, I'm asthmatic, and we had those wildfires from Canada, raining down smoke on us and stuff like that. And so I was, I had my mask on because it was hard for me to breathe. But I noticed that, like, I had several people like, oh, well, you didn't have a mask on last week and you have one on this week. And, I get it to a certain extent that you want to know, like, are you being exposed? Like, does the person think that they have COVID? But at the same point, I don't know what takes precedent. Is it like my own physical privacy and autonomy? So no, don't ask me if I have a mask on because it's my business. Or is it the public health and safety element that takes precedence? And so, like, it's like, yes, ask her because, she might be exposing people to COVID. And I don't think we've ever negotiated our way out of that space. And I think that that's why so many people have gotten sick, have gotten long COVID, have passed away. So if someone asks me, oh, you have a mask on, and I'll say, like, well, why have a mask on? I'm asthmatic. I have people in my family that are immunocompromised, which is definitely the case. Like, if I know I'm headed to see my parents and things like that, and my brother and my aunt, I'll definitely, I'll do a rapid test and, make sure that I'm masking before I see them. So that way I know that I'm not, bringing disease to anyone. I mean, for me, I think that that's the most devastating thing. I haven't had COVID yet that I know of. I'm pretty sure I haven't had it. But more than that, I would hate to know that I was the reason why someone got it, just because I'm being selfish or because I'm being, not vigilant, things like that. And so I'm always on the lookout for that. But my understanding is that the COVID numbers are going up. Again, there is another variant floating around, and so I think the expectation is that the numbers are going to go up in the fall. Now, I'm going into a work situation where I'll be on a hybrid schedule, which, I've done the online teaching, I've done the in-person teaching, obviously, but I've never done the hybrid schedule. So it's split for part of the week in person and part of the week online. That's going to be an interesting thing to navigate. And so guess what? A huge chunk of my Sunday is going to be spent working with the schedule and deciding what my game plan is for how I want to use class time, given the in-person versus online, options. So we'll see. But yeah, it's a new territory. It's a new world. It's a new day. So I'm in a good mood, and I'm glad to share that. Let's see. We spoke about COVID. Other things that I'm thinking about. There is a hurricane either on its way or in California. I had to read that a couple of times. I was like, did I see that correctly? They cannot catch a break out there. I'm between droughts and wildfires, the housing crisis, which hits, everyone, but I know it's really bad in California as well. I know that they're experiencing an uptick in crime, which, quite a few cities are experiencing as well. And then, just the general earthquake situation out in California, the writers and extra strikes in California, and then now a hurricane. So I was talking to a friend last night, and I said the same thing. I was just they can't catch a break. And I remember after college and after my first master's degree, I was back in New York, and I was working in independent film. And it was, a good experience. Again, I'm always nosy about artists and their process and, how their process can inform what I'm doing with my work. And so that part of it was great. It was really hard to make a living. And so I had contemplated a move out to Los Angeles. And at the time, my sister was in that general vicinity. She was going to college. And, after that, I think I spent not a full week, but close to a week in LA. And I was like, I don't think I'm built for this. The traffic and the 5-lane highways alone, I was very, very intimidated. So at this point I've lived in about seven or eight different states. But, I've never lived in the Midwest, and I've never lived out West. But, I'm in a different place now. I'm older, but I found LA to be very intimidating. And, the people were very friendly, but on the surface, I noticed people asked a lot of small talk questions, but then weren't paying attention to the answer, so would ask you the same question again. And that happened several times. I was like, oh, this is interesting. Just as a native New Yorker, I feel like our exteriors are gruff, but I feel like once you make it past that initial barrier, it's like the friends that you have are the people that are down for you. The people that will travel, halfway across the city to come and see you. The people that you invite to your house parties, for Halloween or for New Year's or something like that. And so, best of luck to everybody out in the general Los Angeles area. And, I really hope that you have a soft landing here with that hurricane. I can remember since a very early age just being in hurricanes and how intense it was. The one that I remember the most, other than, Sandy, would be Hurricane Andrew. I think that was like 92. And it just flooded everything. And I forgot what we needed. We needed something. And my father, he decided, he's like, I don't have a choice. I have to go out in this water. And so my father is like almost 6 feet tall. And I just remember the water like being up over his waist, and he was just like out in it. And I was so nervous that he was going to get swept away or something. But, we didn't really have any other options. So I have a personal connection to those particular natural disasters. And so, if you're a native Angelino, you might have never experienced that. So I'm very aware that there's a level of anxiety in terms of how to prepare when you're not used to that. So best of luck there. Other things, I kind of want to talk about the Donald Trump situation, not directly referencing him, but I know one of the judges received death threats, and there was a woman, she left voicemails, and so she got arrested. Excuse me, I keep biting the inside of my mouth here. So she got arrested, and last episode I mentioned that, there's no way that he can dodge all of these charges. I think, some of these indictments actually might stick. So on one hand, we have this. Seems like that's a trend this episode. So on one hand, we have, there actually, might be some justice that comes to fruition from these indictments. And listen, innocent until proven guilty. If he hasn't done any of this stuff, then it'll be it'll be nice for him to be vindicated. But I wasn't born yesterday, so I have a feeling that yes, he will be guilty of some, if not a majority, of these allegations. And so in terms of what that means for our justice system, that's good. But the social element, the fact that his true believers are getting more desperate and they're willing to carry out acts of violence, that part makes me nervous. Yeah. Because it's being encouraged very blatantly. And I don't know if we're taking that element as seriously as we should, because it's related to politics. So here's what I mean about that. So it feels, and I'm speaking generally, when you look at the news media, that there is a concerted effort to, make both sides politically seem equal. And here's what I would say to that. For anyone who subscribes to, a set of conservative values and principles or whatever, I don't agree with most of them, but yes, that deserves a platform, that deserves a debate, a discussion, lip service, all of that. But it's, what does it mean that extremist elements have really taken over that party and again are being encouraged? Like, is anyone speaking out against this woman? Is anyone saying that, oh, this woman does not represent all of, Donald Trump's supporters? This woman does not represent the Republican Party? I'm not saying that hasn't happened. I'm just saying I haven't seen it, right? And so what does it mean that people are getting increasingly violent in terms of their rhetoric, in terms of their actions, and there's no one on that side addressing it? So when we're thinking about balance, you can only have balance if you're comparing apples to apples and oranges to oranges, right? Like, there's not, rephrase, the policy approaches that I've seen from whether it's Kevin McCarthy or Ron DeSantis or leading figures in the Republican Party, they're unserious. They're unserious. And that informs us socially, right? Because politics spills over into the social. And so there is, I think, a tendency to really treat a certain demographic with kid gloves, right, around this political violence. And you can't have kid gloves around that, right? Like, I just needed a moment here to process what it is that I'm really talking about. What I'm really talking about is we have a former president that has 4 indictments and has, whether it's civil or criminal, has I think like a half dozen trials, at least that I know of, coming up. And rather than allow the judicial process to play out, this woman called the judge and was like, I'm gonna kill you, calling her all types of N-words and this, that, or whatever. And it's like, how do you quote unquote get through to someone in that state? I don't really think that you can. And so what that means is, I think the political and social discourse needs to change. I think, right, if you're saying like a liberal versus progressive versus conservative values and policies, yeah, that can be a discussion. But I don't think you can have a discussion with, again, the true believers, the diehard MAGA people. I don't know, what would you say to that people are actually proponents of her doing that. Like, yeah, threaten her, good job. I don't know how to respond to that, and I think it's an important thing to talk through, because I don't believe in canceling people, unless they are, in this case, in her instance, violent, right? Unprovoked, just hatred and aggression, unless, they've harmed children or something of that nature. It has to be something extremely egregious, right? But just because someone, quote unquote, said the wrong thing, I think that there are ways for the person to learn and re-enter society in a civilized way. But there is I won't say small, I think they're sizable. There's a sizable group of people who you can't have those conversations. And, I'm not speaking from a place of any elitism. I am a lifelong independent. So when Democrats and Republicans get going, it's like tennis to me. I go, I have a more progressive value system. I do believe in universal education, universal health care. I think we need more affordable childcare options. I think we need to care for our seniors and for people that are homeless slash unhoused. I believe in inclusivity. So yeah, I have a more progressive set of values, but at this point, that doesn't necessarily dictate who I support politically. So if you have the progressive rhetoric, but you don't have the chops in terms of policy, or if your policy directly contradicts the progressive values that you've professed, I have a problem with that. And so I'm not, presenting this, in terms of the political violence and the social aftermath. I'm not presenting it as someone who is like, oh, those people or whatever, again, more progressive values, but I'm, a working middle class person. But I do think that sometimes if you entertain nonsense, right, it moves that window way too far to the right. And like, what does it mean that Marjorie Taylor Greene, right, so she doesn't like the verdict in, the Hunter Biden case, and so her immediate response is like, oh, and I think she might have put it out before. She's like, let's impeach Joe Biden. For what? Is he my favorite person? No, but you are deliberately being unserious, right? And so how do you have a conversation with a person like that? I don't know. I don't know where that leaves us as a country in terms of making progress as a society. And I'm using progress instead of progressive. Progress meaning, we have infrastructure that needs to be fixed and rehabilitated, right? We have urgent work that we're super behind on in terms of our climate emergency, our educational system, especially as it relates to our young people. Our young people, we have a lot of youth that are struggling. I see them. They're in my classrooms, of all races and nationalities, and class backgrounds. So we have urgent business to take care of, and I don't know how any of that gets done in this current climate. And so that's why, so this was, initially I was like, oh, well, do I talk about Trump or do I not? I don't, and I think I've said this before, I struggle with like how much airtime to give this person and this topic, but it's, ever since he came down that escalator, right, in, was it 2015? He's just been a firebrand. He's been a hot button issue, and everything like politically is like swirling around him like a whirlpool. And, I don't know if it's like a whirlpool that goes to the center of the earth, or is it a whirlpool that just like goes down a dirty toilet bowl? I don't know which one we're looking at here. But either way, it's maybe not that great. Anything else? So, for anybody that is interested in pop culture, and just general like interviewing and stuff like that, the YouTuber Tasha K, she did this interview with a woman that spent 20 years in prison for attacking her boyfriend's girlfriend, right? So they were dating the same guy. And the interview, parts 1 and 2, I listened to that today, and that shit was wild. Like, I've heard of rivalry over men and stuff like that, but just what the woman described, and then, Tasha interviewed the guy for his side of it, so he basically corroborated most of what she was saying. It was just kind of like, my goodness, people get into so much drama. And I've tried to, I would say, other than like financial job stuff, outside of that, like drama, which is, to a certain extent not avoidable, right? Like when you end up at a job from hell, like that's just where you are. Like you just have to learn how to deal with it. But I haven't, had any relationship type drama or whatever. And then it's like, if I was ever dating somebody and I felt like it was going in that direction with him, I'd be like, nope, block, delete, remove. I really am a fan of my peace of mind. And so listening to this woman's experience, and it just was like, wow, this stuff has been going on for over 20 years and it's still not over. And so I was just wondering, like, how different would my life look if it was dictated by this toxic relationship, with a guy that I couldn't get rid of him. And even to this day, he seems determined to be a part of her life somehow. So yeah, if you have an interest in anything like that, it was almost like true crime, but not directly. So Tasha, I think, did a good job, as an interviewer. She put a few extras on it here and there, but I think she did a good job as an interviewer. So I would suggest you check that out. And speaking of peace of mind, shout out to Britney Spears. It seems like she's getting divorced again, and that is someone who, the more that I've learned about her story and her experiences, I do not envy her fame whatsoever. It seems like she's gone through it and continues to go through it. So I was sorry to hear that, because I just feel as if, and I know, like, if you're struggling, mentally, in terms of depression and things like that, like, it can just be one little thing that just sets you off into a spiral. And so I really hope that doesn't happen for her. I hope she has better people around her to help her navigate this time. But I feel badly for her. I think it's easy to say, oh, somebody's, rich and famous and, they don't have real problems, like, screw them. And, I've been that person before, but her family is jacked up. The dudes that she's been married to. I don't know about the latest guy. His name, I think, is Sam Ashbari or something to that effect. But the first two were real pieces of work. And just didn't seem like anybody was in her corner or there to help her. And so that's tragic. Whether you're Britney Spears or Brittany Williams, Brittany Johnson, Brittany Rodriguez, Brittany Chan, like, that shit is really sad, and so I was sorry to hear that she was going through that again. So the sun is going down and it's a little cooler at night. So we're at the end of the summer, and the summer has felt at once like long, because I had to be productive. I had no choice. I had like a lot of stuff that I had to get done, but also short, because now that I feel like I have some breathing room, now it's back to work officially. But I really enjoy doing the show. And so, again, thank you to anyone that's been a part of my summer watching any of these episodes. So as the sun sets, we will sunset season 1, episode 18 of the Composite. Thank you for joining me again. I'm Deanne Battle, and I'll see you the first week in September. Bye.